Good morning and welcome to this webinar on delivering or how to deliver MTD IT for income tax. Sorry, I said how to deliver making tax digital for income tax with a strategic outsourcing solution. This webinar is today presented to you by Robert Grant from Initor Global. Good morning, Robert. How are you?
Yeah, good morning, Nick. I'm very well. Sounds like you're suffering from MTD income tax fatigue.
That's one polite way of putting it, Robert. As per our discussions before we even kick-started this webinar, I think my pants are in a bit of a twist, and I think they'll be like that for a number of months until we kind of embedded into this process. I think yourselves, Initor Global, our audience, and also software vendors are probably trying to get their head around it, what it means, because it keeps on evolving. And there's updates giving at budgets and statements. So yeah, fun times ahead. But I'd firstly just like to welcome you, Robert, welcome our audience to this webinar. Please put in the chat where you're joining from, what you're looking to gain from this webinar, and any questions that you may have. I will do my best to ask them to Robert at appropriate times. If not, it will be asked at the end of the session. Okay, there are a number of polls that will take place throughout this webinar as well. So it's really keen that you participate and you express how you're feeling on this. Okay, this webinar is being recorded. So please don't worry, you have to leave, make a coffee, or get sidetracked by some MTD IT regulation. So please come back and join this or view it at a later date. So to get us started, Robert, please tell us how a strategic outsourcing solution can help deliver MTD IT for accountants.
Okay, brilliant, Nick. Thank you for that introduction, and good morning, everyone, and welcome to a webinar. As Nick says, it's all around delivering MTD for income tax with a strategic outsourcing solution. My name's Robert Grant. I'm Initor Global's Head of Customer Experience, but I am an accountant by profession, and I worked in practice for over 30 years. I'm very familiar with how to introduce outsourcing into a practice, and I'm happy to field any questions about my own personal experiences about that. Initor Global, well, we're an offshore supplier of accountancy services to over 100 UK accountancy practices. We provide all end-to-end accounting, bookkeeping, tax and payroll services from our offices in Ahmedabad. That's in the Gujarat region of India. We have other satellite offices as well, but that's where our headquarters is located. I'm sure many of you listening and tuning in are well prepared for the implementation of MTD for income tax next month. We're only 31 days away from full implementation. Others may be wondering how to sustain capacity and services as more and more businesses and more self-employed people enter the regime over the next 3 years. So with that in mind, we will run through some practical solutions about how you can introduce outsourcing to your practice as a strategic solution in the immediate, medium, and especially over the longer term. As Nick said, please use the chat box to ask any questions. We'll do our best to answer those openly and honestly, or offer any comments at all about your MTD IT experiences to date and how you've managed to engage clients in this new regime. I would like to start, of course, by adding some context. As I said in my introductory remarks, accountants are now at the final stages to implement Making Tax Digital for Income Tax, shorthand MTD IT. The most organised accountants among you will have segmented their client base, looked at how clients keep records, reviewed internal workflows and capacity to deliver, communicated regularly with clients on changes to services, and of course, updated fees and terms. Sounds brilliant, doesn't it? Sounds great. However, feedback from Initor customers and the profession more widely shows many accountants, including larger practices, continue to see some significant risks to a successful launch next month. And I want to just give you a quick anecdote about a practice that contacted me last week in a bit of a panic. This was a sole practitioner. This will sound familiar to many of you. They had many self-employed clients who they typically go the extra mile for in preparing the annual self-assessment. They will take records at the last minute. They will use government gateways to file, really supporting clients who are not that tech savvy. They've got historically low fees and margins, and their clients really are not interested at all in the forthcoming changes. So they've kept these clients more out of loyalty than any reason to make a profit out of them. The practice itself, as a sole practitioner, has little scope to deliver the additional work now needed from April, and they certainly can't contain additional work in the existing fee envelopes. And I hadn't even thought about updating engagement letters for affected clients. So that might be a familiar story for some accountants, with the obvious risks to delivery over the next few months. In terms of the biggest risk to clients at the moment, capacity seems to be the single biggest challenge, followed closely by client engagement. Accounting, bookkeeping, and client management are all areas where additional capacity needs to be found to deliver this work throughout the next year. Many clients will be preparing digital records for the first time. They're unfamiliar with software, maybe even unfamiliar with the spreadsheets, and they're going to need a significant amount of support, especially in the early stages. And of course, the knock-on effect of that is that this will involve time and resources for accountants. So following on from that, what is needed is investment in people, systems, and processes essential for a successful implementation. To deliver MTD IT effectively, accountants will need to build capacity, possibly develop new roles to support clients, and certainly introduce automation for messaging and reminders for clients who may be a bit tardy in submitting records every month or towards the quarter end. Helpfully, outsourcing can now help deliver desired outcomes. Think long term. Any MTD IT task can be outsourced. We'll take you through the options available later in this webinar for the immediate term and the longer term. So that's the context for today's webinar. So following on from that, what are we going to cover? We are going to talk about some of the outcomes from HMRC's pilot work. We'll run through some immediate priorities for accountants and clients. We'll talk about how to outsource MTD IT services, and Nick will take you through some software options available now. We have a fixed pricing outsourcing for MTD IT offering, and I'll take you through that and the pricing strategy that we've implemented for that. I'll take you through some of the advantages of outsourcing MTD IT and other work, and of course, give you some key takeaways and practical action for accountants at the end. I'd like to introduce the first poll. Now, what I would like you to do, using a multi-answers, if you wish, is describe your readiness to implement MTD IT, starting with the completely ready accountants among you, and then maybe some of you who still have work to do around software and tech. Some may have work to do with clients, pricing, or planning capacity. So you can choose any number of options from those five. So please, Mimi, if you could open up the poll, we will see what the audience is saying about MTD readiness at the moment.
Yeah, so that poll has just opened, and some of the responses are just coming in. It's interesting, Robert, that kind of interaction you had with your customer. Did they feel reassured after your conversation, or like how did they kind of break it down into tangible actions?
Yeah, I think they certainly needed a conversation with someone sort of away from the day-to-day action, as it were. And what we agreed with the client was, let's do it in bite-sized pieces. Let's start from April with sort of bookkeeping services. Get your clients into a rhythm of sending records to you on a regular basis, because they were used to a sort of a frantic run towards the January 31st deadline. We also offered some suggestions around, getting ready with software. and HMRC compatible software that their clients may be comfortable with. And then, left them with some ideas about how to price this, whether it would be a sort of recurring monthly sort of approach to fees, or whether they would look at other fee or pricing options. And we were able to offer solutions to meet any sort of client readiness for MTD IT, from just straightforward bookkeeping right through to a full service. So I think they were reassured. We also directed them to many of the supporting materials that are out there at the moment. And I think that sort of allayed any concerns that the practitioner was alone in sort of where they are at the moment.
Brilliant. And it reminds me, I'll share in the chat actually. HMRC have been useful for a change, and they produced an agents toolkit on MTD IT. So that's a really useful kind of resource to review.
Yeah.
And once you have the time. So I think the first poll, how would you describe your readiness for implementation of MTD? And it seems the dominant response is still work to do with clients. And I presume that is the client segmentation, be it whether how tech ready they are or what level of services they require, whether they're mandated. So it still sounds like our audience have the first step to take, really, Robert.
Yeah, that does sound familiar, and of course it's not a 1 year project. There are going to be more and more people coming on stream over the next 3 years. Some in mid-year, some will have a lot of catching up to do. So yeah, that does sound familiar. Okay, so following on from the poll, so what do we know so far? And again, just following on from that client comment, early engagement with affected clients is essential. So that means using a risk assessment for each client and identify those most at risk of non-compliance and manage accordingly. Encouraging clients to take better care and attention of data and records is an ideal scenario for an accountant, but it's not always deliverable. So we need to get those clients ready for the new MTD IT regime. And of course, accountants will know some clients are simply not interested at all in maintaining digital records and cannot see any upside at all from the new regime. So those clients are going to be harder to reach and probably harder to persuade around the offering that you may make to them in the new MTD IT world. The accuracy and completeness of digital records is key, and that means the right choice of software, introducing effective workflows and training for staff, and of course, delivering effective communication channels to make sure this work is actually delivered successfully. Incomplete data means delays in submitting quarterly information and the risk of penalties and fines. So the choice of commercial software in the market just now is pretty important to make sure that you can deliver that work effectively. And of course, in the background, peaks of work are going to be exacerbated going forward. There are still quarterly VAT returns to complete. There are still company year-end accounts that will sort of peak at certain times of the year, and other personal tax work to deliver. And just stepping back from all that, the first deadline for submitting information to HMRC on the MTD IT regime is 7th of August, at a time when many accountants will be working on VAT returns, payroll submissions, and filing year-end accounts. And it's also a period when many accountants will be looking for time off. So I think some feedback around that very first quarterly submission will be interesting, and it will help shape how accountants deliver those services going forwards. What we do know is that additional bookkeeping accountant resources are definitely going to be needed. But of course, that will depend on a number of factors. Who maintains the monthly records? Are clients going to self-serve, or are they looking for accountants or bookkeepers to do that? And indeed, are they going to appoint a bookkeeper separate to the accountant that is actually preparing the quarterly submissions? So a lot to think about in terms of record keeping. And who files the information each quarter? MTD submissions take about 15 minutes to submit if the whole process runs smoothly. Are accountants going to do that, or are they going to rely on the client to do that within their commercial software? Will accountants be seeking client approval for each submission made each quarter, or just the final submission? So again, that's something to think about in terms of actually engaging with clients. And of course, the most important question is what level of accuracy are you looking for, especially in the early days of MTD IT? Will you be looking for 100% accuracy or looking to catch up with amendments as the quarterly submission rhythm is actually implemented? So a lot to think about in terms of the resources needed to deliver. And of course, clients are extremely cost sensitive. Some clients may not be convinced at all about the need to pay more for services. These guys will require careful management, maybe even disengage them if it's a drain on capacity, or ask them to employ their own bookkeeping resource. There are, of course, some benefits and upsides from this in terms of more accurate and timely information. Accountants will have more regular touch points with clients and a deeper understanding of their tax position throughout the year. So it is a real opportunity to help clients and add value with timely advice. And of course, within all that, there are some sort of self-evident challenges around finding capacity to contact clients and communicate effectively. And effectiveness of client engagement is a bit of a theme already in the early stages of this webinar. And of course, the workload at month end is increased. That means as the tax year progresses, existing peaks of work for quarterly VAT submission will need to be managed. Popular year ends like 31st of March, 31st December will require more planning and resources to deliver. And of course, by the time the 25-26 tax year returns are due to be filed in January next year, that's the old regime, businesses will have filed 2 quarterly returns under MTD IT. So there are inevitable peaks of work around next January's deadline, and that's a real resource and capacity issue for accountants. And of course, there's the cost of new software and training for accountants, and also getting your client up to speed with that. This could be anything from £300 to £500 per client per month. Nick will take you through a bit more about software and how he's helping clients through Capium deal with this new regime. And of course, the setting up agent services accounts, getting those Form 64.8 in place. Some clients may not have those already. That can be quite resource intensive if they're not already in the regime. Turnaround times are going to be really important here as peaks of work increase. And there are, of course, the stated risks around data collection and accuracy, and that can have a knock-on effect on turnaround times. Another challenge is the client engagement in all of these processes. Clients by nature are resistant to any sort of change. They're only interested in their final tax liability and not really interested in the journey of how they got there. And of course, there will always be unexpected pinch points, especially if clients self-serve. We'll see errors, omissions in bookkeeping, and more resources needed to correct that. So a lot going on in terms of those challenges for accountants as the regime is implemented over the coming weeks. So I'll move into some immediate priorities for you accountants out there. If you haven't done so already, please segment your client database and keep it under regular review. It really is time for some hard decisions around disengaging loss-making or resource-heavy clients. How do clients keep records now? Which clients need most help with transition? Are they tech-savvy? Which clients are hardest to reach? Those should all be thrown into your assessment of how clients are placed into a sort of low risk, medium risk, or high risk assessment. Understand how clients maintain records as MTD IT is rolled out, and identify those hitting new thresholds. This is a 3-year plan for accountants. Identify those clients which are wedded to traditional record keeping. Those are the ones that are going to be hardest to reach. Paper records are no longer acceptable, and you're going to have to find a way to manage that with those clients who are not used to tech or any tech stack. And clearly define your service offering. One size certainly will not fit all for this new regime. Offer options from self-serve right through to full service. Price your services accordingly. And of course, following on from that, you're going to need a clear pricing regime and an update to engagement terms. So that means updating engagement letters to cover things like client responsibilities, to maintain records, look at monthly subscription models for a more regular income flow, and ensure that any additional work outside these terms is priced correctly and billed correctly in a timely way. And build capacity to attract new clients. That's not just retaining and growing existing clients, it's thinking about those clients that will come into the regime over the next couple of years. And finally, Get your clients ready with compatible software. Onboard clients early for bookkeeping and quarterly filing. Many clients will be familiar with app-led software, so get them onto commercial software as soon as you can. Provide guidance for clients on the software which is going to be most appropriate for them, and of course your practice. And automate where possible with bank feeds. Now that is going to need some careful management as well. Clients will need a business bank account. Many sole traders simply run their business income and expenses through personal bank accounts. They're going to need some persuading that a business bank account is needed separate to their personal finances. Other actions, of course, these are pretty self-evident. Embed those new workflows, recurring processes, and keep evaluating them as MTD IT is rolled out. This is a continuous exercise, a review of client behaviour and feedback, and contact those clients early when any issues arise. A really positive action for clients and practices alike is aim for early completion and filing of 25-26 final returns. Avoid those bottlenecks around the January 31st deadline that I described earlier on in the webinar. Introduce systematic communication with clients. That means SMS texts, automated emails if you're not already using them. Many CRM systems are capable of doing that, and it will be standard templates you will be using in any event. And look carefully at the resources needed and how those services are delivered. Remodel your service delivery. Trial outsourcing. Try Initor Global. We offer a free trial, so you can see how that fits in with your practice and your practice workflows. And keep those engagement terms and pricing under MTD as MTD IT is rolled out. Are clients on the right package? Do they need to change in year? Do they need any additional support? And as I keep saying, this is a continuous evaluation of outcomes, particularly as quarterly returns are submitted and you know which clients are at risk of missing deadlines, and those clients that are going to need help with correcting errors or getting their data up to speed. So there's a lot accountants can do, even at this late stage, as we are on the eve of implementing MTD IT. And of course, it's not just accountants that need to take action. There needs to be some client-facing action as well. If clients are self-serving, get them comfortable using bookkeeping software and offer continuous feedback on any errors, omissions, and resource implications. This is especially important for first-time users. If your client is going to be relying on accountants for monthly record keeping to support accurate and quarterly returns, offer those bookkeeping services at an early stage. And of course, learning and knowledge is continuous. Offer online training, blogs, articles, or even direct them to any training or guidance within their own commercial software. And of course, this is all about compliance, keeping clients on the straight and narrow to avoid penalties. HMRC says the regime will be relaxed for fines and penalties in year one, but let's see how that rolls out in practice. And of course, feedback, any lessons learned from that to clients about potential risks of having to pay fines in the future. And then we move on to pricing. Most accountants will be looking for a substantial increase in fees. Speaking to some of our clients, a typical full package of bookkeeping, filing, final submission and self-assessment preparation is likely to be in excess of £1,000 per annum, which is a substantial increase for many clients who just simply relied on a self-assessment tax return towards the end of the year. This is all driven by new digital record keeping responsibilities, increased compliance risk and software costs. Work is of course now distributed across the year, and there are some obvious risks around that, around failing to recover the cost of any additional work, increasing pressure on staff capacity, and quarterly peaks of work affecting delivery of other deadline-driven work. So there's a lot riding on getting those digital record-keeping responsibilities implemented effectively. There are, of course, opportunities to realise the benefits of investment in cloud-based software, document storage, access to records, and automation. And of course, introduce electronic sign-off and signature wherever you can if you're seeking client approval for quarterly submissions. In terms of pricing, offer your clients a range of service level options from self-service, partial self-serve up to full bookkeeping and accounting service. And of course, that's important to make sure that your accountants fall into the right pricing category. Make sure you consider one-off or additional monthly fees for clients entering the system mid-year, or any with historic bookkeeping needs as well. So it's not going to be a sort of linear introduction to MTD IT. There are going to be people coming into the regime throughout the year, and you will need to make sure arrangements are in place to deal with those. And of course, this continuous element of MTD IT, keep reviewing your fee structure and engagement terms on a regular basis. MTD for IT is not a minor increase in workload. It is going to need careful management and continuous engagement with clients. And of course, remember, accountants run businesses as well. We're not here to simply absorb costs, and we will rapidly feel the consequences if that's the approach that is taken. Now that takes me on to the second poll. And this is where we'll ask you for an update on the fees and how you're going to implement MTD IT. Now, how do you see that affecting your clients? Are you looking for no fee increase at all, up to a 50% increase, up to 100% increase, or over that? So I'll let you handle this, Nick, while I gather my breath and take a sip of water.
No, thank you, Robert. I think that was very insightful, and I think there's a few points that stuck out for me. Really, was that kind of the initial kind of transition to MTD with the conflicting deadlines. That really feels like it's going to be a bottleneck, especially if you're a sole practitioner trying to manage those deadlines and kind of roll out, which is essentially a new service, and how you interact with your customers. So I think you've got to rely on software. You've got to rely on outsourcing partners or even a wider community to help kind of tackle that first hump. And I think you raise a really good point about disengaging either cost sensitive or problematic clients. If they're problematic now or they're cost sensitive now, they're only going to get worse, And I think really do be courageous with your pricing, because it's not just you as an accountant who's going to be increasing their costs to deal with this. The whole accounting industry will be as well. So if they say they can go elsewhere to find it cheaper, I would almost call their bluff, because someone might say, well, you've got to use X new bookkeeping software, £40 a month, and then it's an extra £100. So, trust the value that you offer your clients. Wow. The predominant response really is up to 50%. But actually, over a third of the audience aren't going to be increasing their fees at all.
Wow.
I would love to hear from those who voted like that to explain why. The predominant kind of trend in the industry is that there will be price increases, whether they like it or not. So I would love to understand why you don't feel like the need to. Have you already built the infrastructure to deal with the additional strain, or what's kind of causing that? Maybe competitiveness. It'd be fascinating to hear more if anyone is willing to share their thoughts on it. But that took me by surprise, Robert.
Yeah, that's a huge surprise. It's certainly a shift in the sort of direction of travel. We've done a few of these webinars now, Nick, and many were looking at substantial increases. Every accountant I've spoken to has recognised that there is an increase in resources needed to deliver this work. There's additional software costs involved, and those that are going to try and absorb it into existing bookkeeping or sort of accountancy resources and fees already charged to clients. Interesting approach. Maybe they're going for a rate per hour, and that's what it is, rather than having a specific MTD IT product, and that's perfectly acceptable. So maybe that's the route some accountants are going down. Yeah. Okay, so Nick, it's over to you for a few minutes just to tell us what's been happening with Capium and some of the software options that are available in the market at the moment. So I'll pass over to you.
Yeah, thank you for that, Robert. So Capium, actually, as of Monday, we've released our MTD product, and we called it a phase 1 release. A lot of software vendors are probably experiencing or are delivering the product in a phased approach, just because we're working with HMRC and MTD has not been finished being developed. I think it's going to be an iterative process over years to come. But what we have got prepared and what a lot of existing software vendors have is the ability for you to do digital record keeping. Okay. Now, a bit of a myth, you don't need a digital software to do digital record keeping. You can use a spreadsheet. Okay. However, you are going to need an MTD IT compatible software in order to store those transactions, because those transactions are what is going to make up the quarterly filing. Okay, so the quarterly filing that goes to HMRC, very similar to a VAT filing, is based on underlying transactional data. Now, how that data gets into the MTD IT compatible software can be either keyed manually, can be in the software itself, or uploaded via spreadsheet. So Capium's got that live, and I think lots of people have that kind of solution in place. And then we've also got live the ability to do your quarterly filings. And you can obviously do your quarterly filings, not just based on the quarter, but you can do an update every week if you so wished. I'm not sure why you would want to do that, but I'm not going to assume how anyone would like to work. But right now, we've just rolled that out to our customers this week. And I think a lot of software vendors are learning and feeling their way through this as well. Who knows what is going to be mandated next? As I maybe alluded to at the beginning, me and Robert were just talking about partnership income and the confusing tangle that seems to be regarding that. So that's really the kind of short, concise update. But, just to say, on the digital record keeping aspect, Capium offers 4 different solutions. One, you can use a spreadsheet. Other, you can use our bookkeeping product. We've got a kind of product called Capium 365, which is receipt, invoice scanning, bank feeds, and an app for the end user. Or you can record it manually. So you'll find that similar to your client base or your customer base, there's a variety of tech options that can maybe link up to your clients, and also that have different costs attributed to that as well. So maybe use tech as an idea to segment your client base, pricing, and start thinking which client would use what, how would you interact with that client, and what does their kind of submission or record keeping journey look like? Because you may find in your customer base, you have 2 or 3 or 4 different categories, and they may have different touch points, different levels of communication, maybe different software that they need to use. Thank you, Robert.
Yeah, just a question on that. To keep it clean as possible, would you ever advocate clients use spreadsheets, or do you think it's sensible to get them onto bookkeeping software as quickly as you can?
I think in this world that we find ourselves in, if you have been firm enough from the beginning to embark all of your clients onto a bookkeeping software from the onset, great. You had that kind of law set down. But those who are getting mandated, especially in year 2 and year 3, may not be your most profitable clients, may be cost-sensitive clients. And maybe using a bookkeeping software is a step too far. So I think you've got to weigh up, what do I need to do to get them onto a bookkeeping software? Are they going to need education? Are they going to need support? Do I have the resources to help with that transition? So I obviously believe there's loads of benefits from bookkeeping software, but however, your clients the best.
Yeah.
If it's easier to mitigate the price increase and to make sure that you're actually getting something back from your client, and at least they're doing some kind of record keeping and they have their limits, then a spreadsheet is a perfectly acceptable first step. But
I guess it depends on the nature of the trade or sole trade. If it's just a professional services sole trader, a couple of invoices a month, vanilla expenses, then a spreadsheet might just do the job.
Exactly. But, the question is as well that as more people get mandated into it, how scalable is the spreadsheet option? So, yeah, you just got to segment your clients, see what they are comfortable with, what you're comfortable with educating them with, and then deciding the best option. Maybe start off with year one with a spreadsheet with the 3-year aim of a bookkeeping software. There's no right answer, Robert.
Yeah, okay.
Sure.
No, you gave a perfectly open answer there, which you promised. So now we move into how we're really going to try and help you deliver these services using an outsourcing solution. And I think to set the scene, we'll have a third poll, which is all about service delivery and your approach to service delivery. Now, we've touched on this throughout the comments thus far, and it'd be great to hear from the audience about whether you're looking for a single defined MTD IT service for all clients, or if you're not planning any MTD IT offering at all, you're going to rely on existing bookkeeping, tax and accounting services. Or are you thinking about a tiered approach based on client needs, or are you not decided yet at all? So just be interesting to set some context for the next few slides that I'm going to deliver on outsourcing.
Brilliant. And what I just want to share a little story or interaction I had with an accountant is when he first started on the MTD journey, he created a one shoe fits all approach. And he thought everyone would be bookkeeping software, we'll do all the quarterly filings, and it'll be priced at this. That went down very mixed and actually alienated a lot of their customer base. And actually, they had to revise the service offering. And I think, again, another very open response here, Robert, you're pinning me down to anything today, is I think the services are going to continue to iterate. I think you've got to be flexible with that. And I would make your customers aware of that, actually, that I may review this service offering next year because it may cost me more, it may cost me less. Yeah. So, please be aware of that. And as you mentioned earlier, Robert, about the engagement letters, they may be a well-utilized tool going forward.
Yeah. Okay.
And just the response so far is over half haven't decided how they're going to service the MTD.
That's my target audience.
Perfect. And then followed by a single defined MTD service for all clients, which I'm hoping they're going to be like it or lump it. This is the solution.
Okay. Brave, I think that option one is, but
I'm reading into it, Robert. Or maybe I'm pinning it on it.
Okay, so just thinking about the thinking about the MTD IT journey and the various outsourcing models we can apply to that. Just reminding ourselves again, a typical sole trader or a landlord engagement is now going to include a number of elements: ongoing digital record keeping, 4 quarterly submissions, a year-end final submission, increased client communication and review points, and of course the final self-assessment tax return submission. This is a substantial increase in workload for any client who may have required little support in previous years. So if we break that down into a number of tasks, we can see where we can, realistically outsource that work. The monthly data collection and bookkeeping on any type of software, you can outsource that quite easily. Offshore bookkeepers have been working with accountants for years now to manage workflows, ensure compliance, and deliver quality work. Then, of course, we come to the quarter end when those HMRC compatible software needs to be updated. Again, we are comfortable with that using the MTD under the VAT regime, and an outsourced bookkeeper can do that quite easily. That will give you your timely and accurate record keeping and early warning of any issues arising from those submissions. Then, of course, there's the filing the information each quarter, and you need to think carefully if you're going to get your client involved in that in terms of approving it or reviewing it, or whether you're just going to put it straight through the system. And an outsourced accountant can do that. They can review the work, they can ensure that deadlines are met and the overall quality of data can be assured. Then, of course, we get to January, or sort of after the end of the fourth quarter, and then the lead up to January, preparing the final returns. An outsourced accountant can do that. They've been preparing sole trader accounts for years, and that can help you manage that peak of work, ensuring compliance and quality of work again. And of course, there's filing the final SETR returns. That could be a task for an offshore accountant, but typically I would expect the onshore accountant to do that because they will have an overview of a client's overall tax position in terms of other PAYE income, other income streams, and not just the MTD IT scoring income. And that gives you the capacity to deliver the tax advice and support based on the offshore accountant's work. So there's a number of tasks we can break down within any outsourced model. So we've spoken to clients and we've worked with a number of them to see what we can do to meet each of those sort of scenarios. And we come up with 3 levels of service. Now, the light service is just like a typical bookkeeping service. We'll do that on any software and just maintain the records every month, prepare the end of month reconciliations, and the onshore accountant can use that in the usual way. So there's no updating of HMRC records within that regime and no sort of impact on filing information towards the end of the year. There's also a premium option where we actually do maintain the HMRC compatible software quarterly, seek client approval if it's needed, and then file that summary information each quarter. So that would take you into the sort of premium service. And of course, we offer a full service as well for those accountants who are pushing their clients down that road. And that takes you all the way from the end-to-end journey from the beginning, the monthly data collection, right through to preparing the final self-assessment return to client approval stage. And those prices are based on the number of bookkeeping transactions every month. So the minimum level, just a straightforward bookkeeping up to 25 transactions, £10 a month, right through to £20 a month, 25 bookkeeping transactions, but of course providing all those services. I think it's worth saying that when you look at how a bookkeeper working in a practice onshore would deliver those services, you would expect a rate of about £30 to £40 an hour for a bookkeeper, and for an accountant, maybe £50 to £70 per hour. So you can see the sort of cost benefits of outsourcing this work to an offshore supplier. And we're happy to talk any accountant through what we can do for them at the detailed level, in a video call at any time between now and the sort of implementation of the regime. Of course, it's not just MTD IT work that you can outsource. There are many admin tasks associated with the preparation of personal tax records. There's HMRC registration, there's seeking UTR numbers. We can do all that, waiting in those sort of HMRC queues to respond to telephone queries. You can get our offshore accountants to do that for you. We can help with data collection on a monthly or quarterly basis. If many of your clients are still submitting invoices on a PDF, just get them over to us and we'll maintain the bookkeeping software, or even put it into a spreadsheet if that's the option that you want to take. We can help with tax computations, personal tax, landlord tax. We're very well versed in all of that. And partnerships, we can do the SA 800 forms for you, prepare them, and get the various people involved to approve. SA 100 preparation, that's sort of bread and butter to an offshore accountant. And of course, many accountants are now dealing with prior period returns, that's historic expense claims, or getting clients up to speed if they've sort of missed a deadline or two. We can help with sort of historic records as well. Any HMRC queries, we can help resolve those through their online chat and waiting in queues, as I've said. And we can also deal with HMRC filing as well. So even putting the personal tax work to one side, there are wider benefits, of course, to outsourcing work. We can help fill resource gaps, manage peaks of work. We provide access to a pool of talented professionals that you can engage on an ad hoc basis, pay as you go, half-time equivalent basis, or even on a full-time equivalent basis as well. It's expertise really when you need it. So you can engage those resources throughout the year at peak times and switch the offshore support on and off when you need it. We also provide admin support to contact clients and, of course, our HMRC, as I mentioned. And one of the key wider benefits of all this is we can reduce your costs quite significantly from the get-go. We can help support you with flexible pricing models. If you use incremental pricing, then that's great. Our prices remain fixed throughout the period of an engagement, so you can really gain some really good margins by using flexible pricing models. It also helps you make the most of your investment in technology. We know cloud accounting software can be expensive, and we know that automation of some tasks is necessary nowadays. And we can really help you make the most of that investment by completing some of those tasks offshore, some of those data reviews, and some of those data inputs. And of course, we seek to ensure quality and compliance in everything we do. Professionals are fully qualified in bookkeeping or accounting and payroll as well. So that is rest assured that we can deliver what we promise. And of course, data security, front of mind for accountants, I would hazard. That's assured at all times through our secure login arrangements. I think I'll offer the final poll now, if that's okay, Nick, and just say, would you like to be contacted by one of our expert advisors? Yes, now, sometime over the next 3 months, or not at the moment. So if you just introduce the final poll, I'll move into our concluding remarks. Thanks, Nick.
Brilliant, Robert. That's open. And I think I'd just really like to stress to the audience that, outsourcing is really a solution you should consider for helping you tackle with MTD. It's scalable. As Robert's highlighted, it's a resource that you can use on demand. So when you know there's particular pressure points, you can utilize that. So it's really worth evaluating.
Yeah, definitely. And we offer a free trial, as I said. So that's about 10 hours of accounting or bookkeeping time. So you can test the system, you can review the quality of work, and you can build confidence in the offshore team even before you enter into a full contract. So yeah, I'd urge anyone to take up that offer. We do try and help our clients as much as we can.
Perfect, Robert. I'm going to leave that poll open while you enter in your final remarks.
Okay, so final messages from me. The focus now, of course, is on MTD IT delivery. We know when the deadline is, we know what accountants need to do, and you've heard how we can help you. Implement that software solution early. As Nick says, there are still various options available, from the very rudimentary spreadsheets right through to fully integrated bookkeeping and HMRC compatible software. So make sure you get those solutions in the bag as early as you can. Offering a choice of service level is really important based on client need. It helps differentiate from your existing services. Now, some of you have said you're not going to go down that route, which is absolutely fine. I get that some clients might be comfortable just with their normal bookkeeping or accounting or tax services, but think carefully about the level of service that each client needs based on your assessment of risk. And this is a continuous process, so keep those engagement terms and fees under review and provide that continuous feedback to clients who may be struggling with the regime and may need a change in service and, of course, a change in fees. You really need to open the door to those discussions because they can be difficult, as we know. And client contact and, of course, client management needs to be effective. Automate that contact where possible, but, of course, where client need that one-to-one support, you're going to have to find resources to deliver it. Keep your capacity under review as MTD IT is rolled out. People will be entering the regime throughout the year. They will need a lot of help getting their records up to date. And of course, that comes with a cost. So you may need to have a bespoke sort of a pricing model to get clients up to speed. And that's no different from any sort of new client you take on who may need historic year-end accounts work. So just use those principles when you're introducing MTD IT clients throughout the year. And plan for the longer term. More businesses need to comply in 2027 and 2028. The government has not signalled any intention to adjust those thresholds. So by 2028, any self-employed person with income of £20,000 is going to have to comply with this regime. There are, of course, opportunities for upselling services based on accurate and timely information. I mean, that's going to be variable. Many sole traders, they have a very simplistic business model and maybe simplistic business affairs. They're not going to need, detailed work on tax efficiency or anything like that. But do take the opportunity to discuss that with them in terms of upselling wider services. And of course, outsourcing, I'm a great advocate of. I work with outsourcing providers throughout my career, successfully in many cases, to help deal with backlogs, deal with peaks of work. And it does provide a ready-made solution for now and over the longer term. So just a thank you from me, and any sort of concluding remarks or questions from Nick, I'd be happy to deal with.
I don't think there are any questions, but the main question is about, can someone get access to the slides? How would you do that, Robert? Should I reach out to you directly?
They can reach out directly. We'll put those slides on our website, so you can access them there. But yeah, just drop me a line if you would like the slides sent direct to your inbox. Happy to do that. Please feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll always get back to any direct message. Happy to help. You've got my contact details there as well. So yeah, feel free to connect. Happy to speak to anyone at any time.
Brilliant. All right, that's great, Robert. Thank you so much for your time. I hope the audience have left with a bit of a clearer framework in mind and different solutions that they could think about embracing to help tackle the problem or the opportunity that is MTD IT. Robert, thank you for your time. This webinar has been recorded, so you will all get recording of this afterwards. Cheers, Robert. Thank you, everyone. Have a great afternoon.
Fantastic. Thank you to you and your team for the helpful input today. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye-bye.